Folks, here we go. Week 1 of the NFL season getting ready to get underway. I cannot wait. The 2021 fantasy football season is finally here. I am Jeff Thitoff, Tito, with the Premier Fantasy Podcast here, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. And I'll give you some tips for week 1. You can always find me at FitHappens, at THIT Happens on Twitter. I'll answer your questions there. I'll be available all weekend long. If you have questions, give me a follow, shoot me a message, and I'll answer your questions regarding your particular lineup. The first news I want to get to is something that was made to be a bigger deal probably than it should be, and that was the signing of Le'Veon Bell to the practice squad of the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, as we know, stupidly, foolishly lost J.K. Dobbins by playing him in the final preseason game. John Harbaugh made a huge mistake doing that, in my opinion. I know it's easy to say it now after it happened, but I wouldn't have played him. If you would ask me before the game, I would have said, don't play him. There's no need to play him. You don't need to put Dobbins in this third preseason game. But Harbaugh did it, and now Dobbins is gone for the season. Gus Edwards is now the guy in Baltimore, and they went and signed Le'Veon Bell to the practice squad, and there were people that were asking me if they should pick him up as an add to their team as kind of a stash guy to see if potentially to have some value for the Ravens. And my thought is this. What happened to me, I'm human like anybody else, I went and looked. I was thinking, I'm a Gus Edwards owner in some of my leagues. Do I need to reconsider this now and maybe look at Le'Veon Bell as someone I should possibly consider in case he gets some decent work with the Ravens? And then I paused, and I remembered that, it's been a long time since Le'Veon Bell's looked good. It's been a bit now. He's now 29 years old, flamed out in Kansas City, didn't do much for the Jets after sitting out that season with the Steelers. And so, you're talking now about it's been several seasons since we've seen Le'Veon Bell look good. The Steelers offense, they plugged in James Conner for that first year. I know the Steelers struggled last year, but Conner in the first year was a very, very good running back for Pittsburgh in Le'Veon Bell's absence. So now the Ravens have signed him. And I am not recommending you pick up Le'Veon Bell. Now, if you've got an absolute dead spot on your roster, if for whatever reason you decide to draft 2 kickers, a mistake, then you could cut one of the kickers and pick up Le'Veon Bell just as a lottery ticket. But he's no longer a Powerball lottery ticket. He would have been, I thought he was when we went to Kansas City, when we went to the Jets. I thought this is a guy, especially the Kansas City move, I thought this guy is a potential Powerball lottery ticket. I was wrong. He is no longer that Powerball lottery ticket. Now he's more of that pick 3 lottery ticket that your state may have, or the state of Ohio has, where, if you win, you might win a couple $100, but you're not going to retire off of it. Whereas if Le'Veon Bell would have done what I thought he was going to do in Kansas City, he had a shot to really cash in there and help your fantasy team. Not the case anymore. So I am steering clear of Le'Veon Bell. I am not. I don't think that I'm not at all worried that he's going to get some kind of serious play. They might add him, sure, to the to the practice to the active roster soon, and maybe he gets some work in the passing game. But he's just not going to do what he used. He's not going to do what he used to do in Pittsburgh. He's close to 30 years old now, and Gus Edwards. By the way, Gus Edwards last year he led the Ravens in carries. I know Dobbins was a rookie last year, but he led the team in carries. He had more carries last year, and for his career, he's averaging 5 yards a carry. I believe a little over 5 yards a carry. Tyson Williams is the backup there. He's a second-year guy. I like him quite a bit. If you're going to handcuff Edwards, that's where you're going. You're not going to go with Le'Veon Bell. All right, let's talk now about tonight's game between the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. And now your drafts are all done. Everything's in the books. You look at this game. And if I had to pick one Tampa Bay running back to grab, if you told me there's one guy based on value and based on, I wouldn't start any of the Tampa Bay running backs, first of all. None of them are startable for me this week. If I had to start one in a very deep league, it'd be Gio Bernard. I think Bernard has the best chance to find the end zone, and I think that Brady's going to look to him quite a bit. You looked last year in Tampa Bay's games, there were plenty of times where Brady got frustrated because Leonard Fournette, who we used to think was a decent receiver out of the backfield, who used to be a decent receiver out of the backfield. We saw Leonard Fournette dropping passes and Brady looking very upset about it. Then the other situation is, Ronald Jones. They've had him for a few years now. I think if they liked what they had in Ronald Jones, they wouldn't have gone out and gotten Gio Bernard. So if you have to start a Tampa Bay running back, and I don't recommend you do, if you're in like a 12, 14, 16 team league where there's no way around it, you got to play one of the guys. Gio Bernard's the one to go with there. As far as the receivers go, I think Mike Evans is the best play. Godwin's still dinged up, so Mike Evans is going to be the best play there, I think. I'm curious to see what Brady's going to, he's going to interact with Antonio Brown on the field now. Brown's had a full training camp with him. And down the stretch last year, Brown was his favorite receiver. So I expect a lot of fireworks. I think Evans probably outperforms Brown, but it's close. Godwin's my third option there. Switching over to the Dallas side of the ball. I'm seeing a big game from Dak Prescott. I think the Cowboys are going to score some points against this very vaunted Tampa Bay defense. Zeke Elliott, I want to see how he does now. He always played better with Dak than he did with Andy Dalton, but then again, everyone plays better with Dak than they do with Andy Dalton. They're missing an offensive guard. Starting offensive guard for the Cowboys is out because of COVID, so that's going to affect things a little bit. Two guys I'm keeping an eye on. Actually, if I want to rank the three Cowboy receivers for me, give me CeeDee Lamb first, give me Michael Gallup second, then I'll take Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper's been very overvalued in fantasy drafts. And then so Lamb and Prescott have a special connection. I like Gallup quite a bit. Cooper, for me, is the third guy I'd want on that team. We'll see how they do tonight, but I think there'll be a lot of scoring in this game. And although Tampa Bay's got a great defense, Dak's back. And I think Dak Prescott's in for a monster year. I've got him ranked as my second quarterback this week, and I've got Brady ranked third. I think they both have huge games tonight. Going over some of my other rankings. At the other quarterbacks that I'm looking at that I think I have probably higher than other people in the industry, I do have Stafford 10th against Chicago. It's a tough defense, I know, on Sunday night for Stafford. I've got Jalen Hurts 11, Trevor Lawrence 12. 10, 11, 12, Stafford, Hurts, Lawrence. So in a 12-team league, I'm telling you Lawrence is a must-start against Houston. He's not going to be every week start for me. I've got him ranked just above Justin Herbert, which is interesting, I know, because Herbert's a dynamic talent who had a fantastic rookie year last year. And the Chargers, though, were not sure about Austin Eckler's health yet. And the Washington defense is just amazing. Loaded with pass rushers. You got Chase Young out there. I think they're going to cause a lot of problems for the Chargers offense, regardless if Eckler plays or not. That's why I've got Herbert ranked 13th. On the running back side of the ball, I've got McCaffrey, Cook, 1 and 2. And then I've got James Robinson for Jacksonville third this week. And I think that Robinson, people forget how good he was last year coming out of nowhere as somebody who no one expected Jacksonville to rely on. Then they cut Fournette very late in camp and hand the ball over to Robinson, and he did great last year. And now that Etienne's out for the year, Robinson's the guy there. I think the Jacksonville offense is going to have some success against Houston. The Houston team is much different than it used to be. There's no J.J. Watt there now. There's no Clowney there, obviously. They are a team in disarray. So I look for Jacksonville's offense to do well there. Going a little bit further on my rankings, I've got Derrick Henry 4, Derrick Henry 5, Kamara 4, Jones 5, Eckler. We got to see about him. I've moved him down my rankings. I had him at 7, right behind Aaron Jones, but now I'm dropping him down. I've got Gibson 7 for Washington, Joe Mixon 8. I've got Jonathan Taylor 9, Najee Harris 10, and Nick Chubb 11. And Najee Harris is another one I'm watching very closely as a rookie and with that Pittsburgh offensive line. What's going to happen here in that game against Buffalo? And it's a tough matchup for Pittsburgh to play Buffalo on the road to start the season. But I don't expect to see this offensive line for Pittsburgh all of a sudden dominate the Bills' defense. I just want to see them be able to hold their own for a good chunk of the game. Pittsburgh's best look in the preseason was their second game at home against the Lions, which I know it's the Lions, and the Steelers starters protected Big Ben for the most part. A couple of times Ben got flushed out and actually looked more nimble than I've seen him look in the last couple of years, if anyone can call Ben Roethlisberger nimble. But the offense looked pretty solid when Big Ben was in the game. They had their moments there, but I want to see them be able to contain Buffalo's pass rush and see if Najee Harris can get enough positive yardage to make a difference in that game. If they give Roethlisberger time to throw, so that'll be good things for Pittsburgh there. So I'm looking at that as well. I want to see how Pittsburgh's offensive line does and how Najee Harris does against number one defenses for an entire game. I think Harris will get 20-plus touches, so he's a must-start for me this week, and most weeks he's going to be as well. Talking about some receivers now, and a receiver, I found myself, I did about 40 to 50 drafts this year, and it seems like in some cases there are some receivers I couldn't believe how far they were falling, and it's almost like I'm married to some of these receivers now because I thought so highly of them that when they fell in the drafts, I grabbed them up and was ecstatic about it. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. Then I'm going to come back. I'll tell you about the receivers, and we'll dive into the tight ends as well. We come back here for the Premier Fantasy Podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us, and then listen in.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
Okay, now we're back. Receivers. Look, I am in bed with the LA Rams this year. I've been Matthew Stafford. I have been talking him up quite a bit. He was a great value pick. I told people in drafts, don't overdraft for a quarterback. You can wait on quarterbacks to get tremendous value later in drafts. I find myself with Stafford a lot, and in turn, Robert Woods is on a lot of the teams that I drafted as well. I think that Robert Woods' dynamic talent's gotten traded around more than he probably should have for how good he is. But the Stafford to Woods connection is going to be special this year. And this is the first time Stafford's had a chance to have a very competent coaching staff with not just one great receiver, but a stable of weapons around him. You've got Sonny Michel there now. You've got Darrell Henderson. And by the way, I think Michel's going to be the one who scores more points this year in fantasy than Henderson. But you've got Michel and Henderson there. You've got Robert Woods. You got Cooper Kupp. You got Deshaun Jackson out there. I think that there is, not to mention the mind of Sean McVay, who, you know, if you think that Jared Goff was a really good quarterback and he's going to be great in Detroit, then you're not going to get much credit to what McVay does. But if you think that Goff now is maybe not, is going to take a huge step back in Detroit, then you've got to believe that Sean McVay knows what he's doing as far as offense goes. And I believe that. It's going to be a very tough division out there, but in daily fantasy, not every week, but a lot of weeks, I will stack Stafford and Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp's got some value in, PPR, a little more value in PPR leagues probably than Woods does, but Woods is going to catch a ton of passes from Stafford. They're going to score a lot of points. I know the Bears defense is really good, and I don't think you'll see the full display of what the Rams can do this week. I think they will get kept in check a little bit, but it's way you see it against some of these other teams when they start getting rolling. And I think Stafford's got an outside shot at being a fantasy league difference maker this year. If you stocked up on your running backs, receivers, and tight ends, and then waited until a quarterback and got Stafford, you got damn good value there. And so I'll be looking, that's Sunday night game, that Bears and Rams game. I'm very excited about that, partially because, like I said, I'm in bed with the Rams this year. Speaking of the Rams, I think their defense will have a good game against Chicago. You got Andy Dalton there. I mean, it's almost a given now. You should probably start against Andy Dalton almost every week. I think it's a great matchup for them, and I expect them to really shut down that Bears offense. The Rams are my top-rated defense this week. If you're one of the people who likes to stream defenses, I've seen people that don't ever draft a defense. They just pick one up every week, and use the roster spot that way to where they're constantly rotating based on matchups. If you're looking for ones that, might not be there every week, you always good to go against the Jets, probably rookie quarterback. The Panthers are a good one to pick up to stream. You could the Jaguars against Houston's another good one to stream there. You got Tyrod Taylor, who I'm a huge fan of, but it's Houston, and I don't know what they're going to do. So that's another one. If you want to stream one there, Jacksonville might be the play in that case. Looking at the tight ends, typically with tight ends, it's going to be the same guys ranked at the top every week. You're going to see Kelsey, some alliteration, some combination of Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Mark Andrews, and Hawkinson. Those will be the ones. You don't have two of them on your team, so you're going to start one regardless there. I can't believe you'd have two. Kyle Pitts, rookie tight end in Atlanta, another one I'm looking forward to see how he adapts to the game. He came in with so much hype, and a lot like with Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year with Kansas City, the hype kept getting, from the time he got drafted by the Chiefs last year until you did your actual draft, the hype just kept compounding exponentially, and it was getting to the point where he was almost overdrafted. And he had a decent year last year, but from where you drafted him, you probably overpaid for him. So, it could be the same thing with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, since he got drafted, all we've heard is all these wonderful things about how much of a difference maker he's going to be, generational tight end talent, and he could be all of those things. But I'm not sure in year one if he can reach those aspirations. I would still take Hawkinson over him. I love Hawkinson in Detroit this year, but if you drafted Pitts, that's probably your number one tight end. You're going to play him. If you're looking to pick one up this week, if you, for whatever reason, you either didn't draft one, if you decide to stream tight ends, or if your tight end's got a bad matchup, I'm starting to warm to Zach Ertz in Philadelphia. And I know that he's been thought of as the number 2 guy there, but I think that Ertz is somebody who is going to score. I got Ertz scoring a touchdown this week. I think he's one you could pick up if you're in dire need for a tight end for whatever reason, because your tight end, either you neglected it too late in the draft, or if you've got a terrible matchup for one. But Zach Ertz, I think, is someone you should look forward to. And that's it for this episode. I appreciate you tuning in. We'll do another one here on Saturday with an update with injuries, and we're going to see what's going on. We'll recap some of the Buccaneers and the Cowboys game. But thanks for tuning in to the Premier Fantasy Podcast. I'm Jeff Tito Thitoff at ThitHappens. This on Twitter. Hit me up. I'll answer your questions. Part of the Press Play Podcast Network, the Premier Fantasy Podcast. And enjoy football tonight.